The rare and mysterious poneglyphs are the secret key to finding the island of Raftel, which will unveil the secret of how to become the Pirate King in this week's juicy chapter of One Piece. So much hype this week! Spank it! This week's chapter of One Piece was pretty freaking fantastic. Lots of big events are going on in this chapter as Luffy and Nami continue to fight against this massive never-ending army. Sanji actually manages to convince Big Mom to allow the Straw Hats to leave with their lives as long as he goes through with the wedding with Pudding. And we also get to learn a little bit more about the mysterious poneglyphs, which might actually hold the secret to becoming Pirate King. And it looks like Brook and Pedro are about to go on an incredibly dangerous suicide mission. Just so many epic things going on in this chapter, so let's just start from the beginning. First and foremost, this week's chapter of One Piece opened up with Luffy and Chopper hanging out with a bunch of bunnies. Where the hell was Carrot? That's like my only complaint with this chapter, and it's a super nitpicky one. This is a great chapter of One Piece. It opened up with a lot of great action, with Luffy continuing to battle against this massive army of freaks. I call them freaks because their powers are absolutely insane. That one big dude who's made out of cream, who can actually like send parts of his body flying all over the battlefield like a massive wave of disgusting gooiness. Not to mention that one other member of the Charlotte family who apparently has the ability to control books and actually trap people within them. That leads to this great scene where he's actually flying around on these books, which seem to be flapping around like birds, and he actually traps Luffy in one of them, which allows these two big guys to come in and punch him from two different angles. This would have killed any other normal person, but then again, this is Luffy, the would-be Pirate King himself, and even Nami is knocked down a peg or two. They even managed to take away her freaking card that they got from Lola. Nami tries to convince them that Lola is a good friend of the Straw Hat Pirates, but they're not hearing any of that. They are going to take these pirates to Big Mom, but it looks like things are going to work out for them because of course they're going to be allowed to leave because Sanji has been bargaining with Big Mom, who is really creepy in this chapter. Maybe it's just the way that she was drawn, but she's such an oh-so-disturbing character. The way that she sort of manipulates everyone, especially Sanji, who's being forced to marry her daughter. It's really funny that a beautiful woman has been thrown into Sanji's lap, and he's being forced to sort of suck it up and pretend that he likes her. I'm sure superficially he finds her incredibly gorgeous, but for him to actually betray his friends and have to leave them has got to be rocking him at his core. Although I have to admit, it was nice to see a happier side of Sanji in this chapter, mostly happy over the prospect that his friends are going to be just fine. But the end of the chapter is when shit starts to get real. The poneglyphs, arguably one of the most mysterious elements of the One Piece series. They hold the secrets to all of the mysterious events in the past of the One Piece world and will actually lead to the island of Raftel. According to Tamago in this chapter, there are 9 poneglyphs that you need in order to get to Raftel, and you have to use the road poneglyphs in order to make this a thing, the red ones. And they happen to be in the possession of a couple of those, and they have 3 poneglyphs altogether. This scene is very, very important, as I honestly didn't expect something this big to start building up at this point in the series, but the fact that we're dealing with some emperors makes a lot of sense. They also build up the fact that these poneglyphs are so incredibly important that even the emperors would go to war with each other just to obtain them. We're also formally introduced to one of the 3 sweet commanders, who goes by the name of Charlotte Smoothie, who totally lives up to her name in an incredibly creepy way. She has a big-ass bounty of 932 million. She also happens to be one hell of a woman, and I mean a whole lot of woman. She's absolutely massive. She's gargantuan, and she also happens to have this devil fruit power where she can take her victims and quite literally squeeze the life force from their body, putting it into a cup and drinking it herself. It's really disturbing because one of her attendants comes by, she just casually picks her up and kills her by squeezing her and twisting her in multiple directions, which is weird because her attendant almost sees it as being slightly orgasmic with all the heart signs that they were putting up in this chapter, but no, she's dead as shit. She's completely mummified in the next panel, and frankly, that's pretty fucked up. You know, Big Mom's a pretty scary character, but her sons and daughters are honestly just as horrifying. Conveniently, while Tamago is talking about the poneglyphs, Brook is able to listen in with his soul powers, and we also get to learn that apparently Pedro has been to this island before, and it was thanks to Peckhams that he was actually able to leave, but Tamago knows that he's back. So basically, Pedro and Brook are between a rock and a hard place, but they've decided that since they're so close to getting a poneglyph, they might as well just risk it all, and Brook actually suggests using Pedro as bait, which Pedro is totally down for. This chapter made me love Pedro so much. Before, I was all like Team Carrot for next Straw Hat. Now I want it to be Carrot and Pedro. I want 2 Mink members on the Straw Hat crew. And I can't wait to learn a little bit more about the backstory of Pedro. It seems like it's going to be very rich and interesting, and they seem to be saving it for something big later. So what's the rundown on this week's chapter of One Piece? Why did they have to kill the tree? Seriously, the tree with the twirly mustache. And they had to kill him in such a violent and slow fashion. Another one of the members of Big Mom's family, who goes by the name of Amande, she actually has this like really creepy design with this massive tall neck. She might have been that one character with the big hat that we saw in the previous chapter, or just another one of the random freaks from the freak show of the Charlotte family. I will say it was incredibly disturbing that she seemed to just really love killing this tree in the slowest way possible. She should be focusing on Luffy and Nami, but no, she'd rather torture a frigging tree. Hasn't Captain Planet suffered enough? Honestly, I'm not surprised that Luffy and Nami lost. There were just way too many opponents with crazy powers for them to go up against. They were completely overwhelmed. And Luffy was already tired. He had just had his ass handed to him by Sanji, even though he allowed him to do that. He's incredibly damaged and receives a lot of big attacks in this chapter right here. I know it's weird to actually think scenes of seeing the main characters in a series get beat up are awesome, but we have to admit, that scene where he was trapped in that weird book world, or where he started to have those illusions and then was punched by those 2 big guys, that was freaking brutal and badass. I can't wait to see that play out in the anime version. In fact, this might be my most anticipated anime arc of all time, simply for how crazy everything is. I mean, I thought Doflamingo's family was weird. I mean, really think about that. A giant man-baby in glasses who swims through the ground is normal compared to some of these assholes. The big thing about this chapter, of course, is getting to learn a little bit more about the poneglyphs and how many that Big Mom actually has in her possession. Not to mention learning the importance of the red poneglyphs, the road poneglyphs, which are going to be essential to finding out where Raftel is and will essentially just turn you into the Pirate King. And despite the fact that the Straw Hat crew is seemingly going to be able to leave the island, we all know they're not going anywhere. This is just going to be the beginning of an even bigger confrontation, but I'm really interested to see how Luffy and Nami are going to get out of this sticky situation. Even though Big Mom has claimed what she's going to do is helping out the Straw Hats and allowing them to leave alive, I still don't fully trust her. And this week's chapter of One Piece was the perfect example of having your cake and eating it too. It was a great chapter from beginning to end, with some fantastic artwork, especially in the action scenes at the beginning of the chapter, and getting to learn about all of that awesome poneglyph stuff at the end. I'm now very interested to see how Brook and Pedro are going to sneak in here and actually steal these poneglyphs. I mean, they're not just going to be able to put them in their pockets or anything. I'm sure they're going to come up with some ridiculous and elaborate plan to get them away, and this is definitely going to throw a wrench into Sanji's plan for his big bargain with Big Mom. When Big Mom learns that Pedro and Brook actually stole this stuff, she is going to be pissed. However, you will not be pissed reading this week's chapter of One Piece, which was pretty damn awesome in my opinion. Check it out, One Piece fans. I'm giving this week's chapter a 5 out of 5. It was an essential read, and it's one of those chapters of One Piece that you gotta keep reading over and over and over again. If only to see all of the incredible details in the action scenes and the crazy expressions from the characters, including the new character of Charlotte Smoothie, who just, man, Cannot wait to see more of her in action, especially because the way her devil fruit powers work. Like, does she actually have to constantly grab people and twist them to extract their life force? Can she do it in another completely different way? She is one of the 3 sweet commanders, so we have to assume that she is incredibly powerful. So yes, I loved this week's chapter of One Piece, and I can definitely recommend it to all One Piece fans. Make sure to check it out, my friends. If any of you did read this week's chapter of One Piece, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of Luffy and Nami losing in their epic battle? Do you really think that Big Mom is going to live up to her promise? And what do you think of the brand new character of Charlotte Smoothie and her creepy powers? Will Brook and Pedro be able to pull off this massive poneglyph heist? Make sure to tell me what you want to see and more in the rest of the One Piece manga series. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave me a comment or 2. And I don't do this too often, but here is a shameless plug-in. I just finished up Pokemon Month, where I make Pokemon-themed videos for a month. This was all in the celebration of the release of Pokemon Sun and Moon, which comes out tomorrow, by the way. I'm really excited for that. And in order to cap off Pokemon Month, I've decided to review the very first Pokemon anime movie, Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. So if you're a Pokemon fan or just want to help support the channel, make sure to check out that review. I will put a link for that in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching. I will see you next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.